Did the Utah Utes get exposed against Texas Tech, or was it just a one-off bad performance? We're breaking it down on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into this show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today when you head over to FanDuel. On today's show, we're going to talk about if the game was just a bad sign for Utah or if this team really did get exposed. Then we're going to talk about Utah falling outside of the top 25. AP poll, drop the Utes. It makes sense, but is it fair to have them all the way out of the top 25? Then we'll close with a very brief preview on West Virginia. You know, this is Utah's next opponent. They have a game coming up this week, and this Utah team will be excited to flip the page, but we cannot completely flip the page, right, on this West Virginia game. We cannot completely, I wish we could flip the page. Like I said, that's why I'm literally starting to talk about it, right? We can't flip the page on Texas Tech. It was too bad. Have to go back and talk about this one. And yeah, I mean, it was an ugly game for the Utah Utes, right? You get absolutely steamrolled in the end, 34-10. Yes, it was really a 10-3 game for most of it, right? Even though it did take Utah time to get that one field goal. But, you know, Devon Dampier held under 170 yards passing. Your rushing game, you barely get over 100, and that's only because of garbage time. Your receiving core leaves a lot to be desired. Your offense leaves a lot to be desired, and then the defense breaks down late. So, bad sign for Utah or a one-off disappointing performance? In some ways, I think it's both. Like, I don't know about you all, but after watching that game yesterday, coming into this year, I said Utah would win a college football playoff game. I don't watch yesterday's performance and go, that is a team that's going to win a college football playoff game. I would say that about Texas Tech. You go into Utah's house, like, that's the first time we've seen a team come in and beat a Utah team with fans in the stand and their quarterback healthy since 2017. So that's a remarkable accomplishment for Tech. But I mean, the fact that Utah ended up the score being as lopsided as it did is still a negative sign on Utah. I don't think this team is not a Big 12 contender anymore. I don't think they're out of the race right now. But to me, I don't watch that game and go like, oh yeah, Utah's ready to welcome the third or fourth best team in the SEC or the Big 10 into their home. Or if they play them on a neutral site, I'd feel better about those teams right now because Utah did not perform well yesterday. And it's the type of performance, because of how much this offense struggled, that does not leave me sitting here saying, oh yeah, that ceiling I had Utah at of being a team that wins a college football playoff game, I don't feel like they can reach that right now. And they have a long way to go. Utah can absolutely still contend in the Big 12. I still leave yesterday's game more impressed with Texas Tech than disappointed in Utah. But I'm definitely both after watching it just another time through again too, right? Like Devon Dampier was not very good, honestly. I mean, he missed throws. He would throw short of the sticks at times too. But the whole offense wasn't good. Utah losing the line of scrimmage, right? That was this whole Utah's team's calling card, right? The offensive line is one of the best in college football. And one thing we've said a long time on this show, going back to the offseason, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm genuinely just trying to tell you guys how I see it. Everyone was calling this Utah offensive line a top 3 offensive line in the country. I didn't think they showed that last year. And yes, you get all 5 starters back, you factor in improvement. I didn't see best offensive line in the country. I still think this unit might be a top 10 offensive line because they might have played one top 5, top 3 defensive line by the end of the year with how good and talented that Tech D line is. But I don't feel like we can call this Utah offensive line the best offensive line in the country when you play what I would say is comparable competition to what we thought was going into it, and you get dominated and you don't even rush for 100 yards, become a one-dimensional offense and an offense that really couldn't produce much. I was really unfortunate that Spencer Fano went downfield to block on that one pass play, right? Yes, but Utah should have still been able to manufacture more scoring drives than 2 when this game really mattered. And they couldn't. And that's what is incredibly disappointing. The turnovers, all of it. And most of it, the blame, as we said, does go on the offense. So once again, one off or bad sign, Utah's offensive line, they're still a really good unit, but they are not one of the best in college football right now. They're not one of the 5 best, or they're one of the 10 best, maybe, but we're doing the best and we're saying the 5 best. I wouldn't have Utah's offensive line there right now. The interior offensive line got work pretty frequently on the interior. The Tech D line was able to plug up gaps and not allow Utah to get anything going on the ground. So that's where, once again, we lower Utah's ceiling, but it's still a really good Big 12 team. You were right there with Tech in some aspects, but then you let a backup quarterback absolutely shred you. Maybe that backup quarterback will be really good, right? He looked really impressive throughout the game in a lot of ways. Like, I still cannot believe what Will Hammond was able to do. 169 passing yards, 13 to 16 in the second half. He missed the one touchdown throw, but had 2 other touchdowns still. And the rushing yards were tremendous too in this game. I mean, we could look back on this game and say a star was born. He had 8 carries for 61 yards too. That was supposed to be our quarterback who had 8 carries for 61 yards. And instead, Devon Dampier was really held in check on the ground, 11 carries for 27 yards, 2.5 yards per carry. Speaking of Devon Dampier, I still believe he's going to continue to grow and get better as a collegiate passer, or not as a P4 passer, because that was the area of his game where he needed to grow and improve. He did throw 12 picks last year. This is the best defense he's ever played. He's going to learn from this. He's going to get better. And I do think he'll be ready to attack. He's still, hopefully that ankle issue as well is something he can get fixed up and better as the year goes on. And I know it's kind of an interesting thing to say about a football season, because usually when you get beat up, the injuries get worse, right? But at the same time, he's going to have the bye in 2 weeks, and hopefully Utah's offensive line is still really good. West Virginia is not great, right? I mean, Utah's favored by 12 and a half, is it right now currently? So this is, to me, a week where Devon Dampier should not be contacted very much, and hopefully he's sliding and avoiding those unnecessary hits. So offensive line, to me, an area where I'm not super concerned about them. I just think if they see Tech again, yeah, it's going to be a concern, but it's still a really good offensive line. Devon Dampier still is a good quarterback to me, but he clearly needs to grow and get better if he wants to be one of the best in the country, because right now he does not look like one of the 10 best quarterbacks in college football. He's got to make some improvements if he wants to do that too. But the timing and everything, like, there were plays to be made there, and Utah could have made them and made this a little bit closer of a game. The fact that they didn't make those plays show they still have ways to go, but the fact that they almost did leaves me encouraged about this team, right? Larry Simmons, Tobias Merriweather, both drew pass interferences, but I still want to see those guys continue to be involved in the game plan more. And I still think there's room for them to be utilized even better, but I still love the way Dallin Bentley looked. Ryan Davis is legit like wide receiver 1 for this team right now. He doesn't do everything a wide receiver 1 does, but Devon Dampier trusts him a lot, and that's what matters. I still really like Wayshawn Parker, even though he fumbled. And I think Naquan Rogers is still a good complimentary back. I still like him, just hammering for, I know he fumbled, more Wayshawn Parker carries. We're still going to support that on this podcast here. Yes, he had some issues yesterday, but still 6 carries for 22 yards. Actually, only I'm going down to 3.7, but there was one point in the game that was a little bit higher. I still just believe in his explosiveness. So and Jason Beck as well, right? Like, that was the best defense he's ever played, probably as an offensive coordinator. Learning, growing all the way around. Utah will continue to do that. Defensively, we talked a lot about Utah's defensive line concerns, the defensive tackle group, and honestly, the defensive line outside of John Henry Daly. Where was the pressure? Where was the plugging up the rushing lanes? It wasn't there. That defensive line group, they could have used Keanu Tanavasa yesterday. They could have used a Samote Pepa, who Washington got a good win against Washington State yesterday. That to me will still be a concern. Utah's still a very good defense. They dismantled the likes of UCLA, and as bad as UCLA is, to still go on the road and beat a P4 team like that is still something. And there's a reason that Utah is still already is favored right away against West Virginia. This is still a good team. It's a really good defense, and I still think it will be a good offense on the year. I think the defense is borderline elite to great, but they have to clean up the missed tackling. That's the one concern I will say. You're going to see other strong skill position players in the Big 12. Maybe not quite what Tech has, but you got to tighten up the tackling. Overall, was pleased with the defense. They made some plays, and we know how good this defense is at home, in part because of the fans. The fans were the bright spot of yesterday's game. They made this a night game-like atmosphere, even though it was a 10 a.m. kickoff, hence why Tech had so many false start penalties. But they have to tackle better, and the D-line's got to be better, but that Tech offensive line is also one of the best they see. So once again, like, just going back to bad sign or one-off, it's a little bit of both. To me, it's a bad sign that Utah right now is not a college football playoff contender, but this team is still a Big 12 conference contender, especially with everything going on in the Big 12. It's a conference chaos, and I still have a lot of questions about teams not named Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is clearly the class of this conference, and right now, I said Utah would go 10-2. I still feel like they're very capable of doing that. Maybe 9-3 after yesterday's performance would be a little more realistic, but I'm going to stick to my original 10-2 prediction. But yeah, right now it's going to be very hard for Utah to beat Tech on a neutral field. So they have a lot of work to do to improve, but they still can. Got to tighten up the tackling and get the chemistry down with the receivers, and then defensive line. And then defensively, as we said, plug up rushing lanes better, and just got to get that pass game going. Utah can do it, but they got to start doing it quick. Utah was bad this weekend, right? So they fell out of the AP Top 25 poll. Is that fair? We're going to talk about it. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at the Game Cap. with the game cap, quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit in the front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. I mean, for me, it would be the game, right? Those aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use code locked on, that's all caps, no spaces, you will get a vintage hat for $16.99. That's right, $16.99. Think about how much hats go for today. You can head over to the game, use this promo code locked on, and you'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. You can head to thegamecaps.com right now. No caps in that promo, but as we said, the code locked on college with caps. Grab your team's classic bar or retro classic design with that code and get the exclusive discount because legends wear the game and you can too. It was a rough go for the Utah Utes at home in Salt Lake City. Gosh, we've been talking about that game for so long. I just really thought that Utah was going to come out on top. And instead, you in some ways get exposed and embarrassed. Because, yeah, Utah, going back to what we said in the first one, right? Like Utah did in some ways get exposed as a college football playoff contender. So then they can be a Big 12 contender. Once again, more impressed with Tech than disappointed in Utah. But you can't not be disappointed with exactly how things played out for Utah. The rest of the country is obviously very disappointed with Utah. We got big noon kickoff, the spotlight, and we stunk it up. So we fell out of the AP Top 25 poll from 16 to unranked. Is this fair? It is. I mean, it was 34-10. I can't debate that. The defense was closer. I still think at the end of the year, we'll think it's more good Tech than bad Utah. But the fact is, Utah's resume was not impressive going into that game. Yes, you won on the road, but it was arguably against the worst P4 team, and you blew them out, but so did New Mexico in their place. You beat Cal Poly, that's an FCS win, and you go up to Wyoming and get a victory, but it's like you did not look incredibly impressive in that one, and it's also, that's not a great Wyoming team. Like, yes, they also, Colorado also just beat them, so there's not a good win on Utah's schedule, so I can't be mad, and now they have a loss against the best team they played, and it wasn't a close loss, it was 34-10. So I can't be mad at Utah being unranked here. I think Utah will work their way back in the rankings. I think over the course of the season, what will play out is that was more good Texas Tech than bad Utah. But right now, I think it is a fair reaction to say, especially by the AP poll, I would still have Utah ranked, but I understand why people don't. And they don't feel like this is one of the 25 best teams. And through 4 weeks of the season, I think it's fair right now to say Utah is not a top 25 team. I think Utah will get there, but they have to earn and win some trust back with the disappointing performance, right? When you have an offense that struggles for so long and then a defense that does still fall apart late. I don't put too much on the defense. They just got worn down, but it still would have been nice if they could have tackled late and not had some of those mistakes that they did. So it's fair. You're going to get punished when you lose like that. And I don't have an issue with Utah falling all the way out, especially for some of these teams, right? Like TCU has been very impressive to begin the year. North Carolina is not very good, but you still go into their house and thump them. And I think that SMU win they had is a really good win. I like the Mustangs coming into this year. I think they're, with 2 losses now, clearly not a CFP contender again, but I still think it's one of the better teams in the ACC. They lost to Baylor and TCU. Those are 2 really good Big 12 teams. Honestly, right now, I think the Big 12 power rankings, right? You're going to go Texas Tech for me. Then it's Iowa State. Then I'd go TCU. And TCU maybe even has an argument to be better than Iowa State, what we've seen. I'm more impressed with TCU's win over SMU than I am Iowa State's win over Iowa. And Kansas State is not good right now. So I'm not going to be super impressed by that. So those are the clear top 3 right now. And then a Utah, a Baylor, and Arizona State. It was a good win for ASU to beat Baylor, right? All still in the mix there. And yes, I know I haven't mentioned one team, the BYU Cougars, who are ranked 25th in the country. I just see them play a good team before I say that they are a top 25 team. Like, they have beaten East Carolina this past weekend. Congrats on your victory. Once again, East Carolina. I know it was cross country. That's not a good team. That's what all we're talking about here is, have you beaten good teams? What's on your resume? And there is no debate that BYU is yet to beat a good team. Stanford is about as far as good as you can be. And yeah, 34-13. It's a good win over ECU, but it's not like it's an insane win. It's very similar, right, to what Utah did to Wyoming. Now, granted, you were up by more than Utah in the first half, but it's not just like, oh my gosh, this game is like, I'm trying to figure, like, it's not even in some ways. I mean, Utah beat UCLA by more, right? Now, granted, maybe ECU could beat UCLA with how bad they are, but like I said, to me, it's fair if Utah falls out of the top 25, and they'll just have opportunities to continue to climb their way back, right? Like, I'm okay with Illinois still being ranked. I don't love it, but at the same time, the Illini, it's one of those things where they actually they had a semi-decent win. They went down and they have a better win. That was what it was. They went to Duke and won. How am I going to be mad at you keeping that when you have a better road win, a much better road win, right? And yes, Duke did lose to Tulane, but they got a good win against NC State. They played Illinois close for a little bit, and then that one got a hand. So I'm okay with Illinois still being ranked. And they were also just ranked a little higher, right? Like Utah, I don't think I'm trying to remember where they were in the receiving votes category. I still think they were one of the 5 to 10 best next in there. So that's where I'm not going to be all up in arms about that. You get the Notre Dames of the world, the USCs. I think Notre Dame's eventually going to follow this, but we'll wait and see on that. Missouri, Vandy, I think they'll fall out. The rest of Michigan probably falls out too, but the top 15, honestly, they'll look pretty good. And I am glad that Texas Tech moved up to 12. I think they are deserving of that. And I hope that sooner rather than later they get to be top 10, because Texas is just up there because of name recognition and the last name Manning. I'm way more impressed with Texas Tech than I am the Longhorns right now too. So yeah, Utah's perception is hurt in this game because they did not perform up to standard and they didn't make it a close game, even though they were home. So how does this impact them the rest of the season? Well, our friend of the show, Josh Furlong of KSL.com, looked up the Utes are now, Josh Furlong put out a tweet where he looked up a team rankings model, and the Utes are now projected to finish 8-4 on the season. If we look at their win projections, Utah, their highest win is 82% against Colorado. Next is the West Virginia one. Their favorite 78. It's a 66% against Arizona State win probability. Only at 37% against BYU. That Utah defense has traveled so far. So I'll eat crow if I'm wrong. I'm looking forward to Utah seeing that true freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, down in Provo. I would give Utah a lot more than a 37% chance to win against a BYU team that is yet to beat even a remotely good P4 team. They barely played a P4 team. That's how low I am on Stanford right now currently. Keeping it rolling from there. Cincinnati, you're 65%. I know Cincinnati's done some positive things, but it's just that Tech team is another level, I think. Like, I know they came in and beat Utah there, but I think the fact that it's only 66% for Arizona State and only 65% for Cincinnati, to me, is way off. Like, I just think they're overvaluing Cincinnati. 58% at Baylor, got no issue with that one. That's going to be, in Utah still being favored is nice because that's a really good Baylor team. It's a good offense. Utah's got to tackle better. They want to beat the Baylor Bears. 82% against Kansas State. I think that's a good call right now. We'll see if Kansas State, though, they could be this year's Kansas, where they're the ones that are slaying the Giants down the end of the season, right? And then you get Kansas 47%. I got no issue with that one either. I think a 9-3 season is absolutely in play for, and if you four losses in Big 12 play would be tough. And I don't see that, but I could absolutely see 3 more losses for this team. When we look at, to me, Arizona State, like just games that I don't see Utah losing to West Virginia. Obviously you can lose. It's college football. You can lose to anyone. We're going to talk about the Mountaineers more in a moment, but to me, West Virginia should absolutely be a win. Colorado and Cincinnati should absolutely be wins. And then Arizona State, BYU, Baylor, Kansas State, Kansas. Those are all games you could lose, with some of those being tougher than others. But this is still a good Utah team, I believe, and I believe they will find a way to come out on top. I just believe they're going to work their way back into the AP poll too. I'm just, once again, like, why should I be blown away by the Big 12? Oklahoma State, and I'm not trying to I shouldn't say that. The Big 12 right now, I'm not going to be blown away by the conference top to bottom is what I'm saying. There's some really good teams up top, but like Oklahoma State, man, they just lost to Tulsa last week. Like, woof. Who's the other one we got to? West Virginia just got blown out. Even Baylor still, like, they're a good team, but they have 2 losses now on the year. Like, I just don't feel like this conference is a very good competitive, even conference still. It is not some gauntlet that there's no way that the Utah Utes make it out of. That's not how I view the Big 12 currently. So I'm fine with Utah dropping out of the AP top 25 because they got to earn their way back in based on how poorly they performed. And Utah will start earning their way back in when they take on the West Virginia Mountaineers this Saturday. So how should we feel about the Mountaineers heading into this week? We're going to discuss in one moment. Today's show is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. How great is it having college football and the NFL back? Because that's right, don't forget the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I mean, FanDuel truly makes the game more exciting, right? Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, FanDuel has you covered. It's quick and easy and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays or Saturdays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Whether it's the Utah Utes, any of the great college football games. What a slate this next week. Penn State, Oregon. We got some months, Alabama, Georgia. It's going to be a fantastic week for the sports. I cannot wait to see it get underway. And the NFL always delivers too. If you want to get on the action, you can head over to FanDuel today. Today's show also brought to you by Square. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood sports run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives too. There is a local spot in every neighborhood. For me, there is a really good coffee shop I love right down the road. There's tons of good dinner restaurants as well that, they just come alive. The energy on Sunday during football season too. Everyone's in on their team. The energy is there. It's incredible. And those are the atmospheres we love to be a part of. So go out and support small businesses. Square is proud to partner with more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/locked-on-college. That's all caps, no spaces. Square.com, only on the locked on all college part. So it's square.com.go/locked-on-college. That's the all caps part. To learn more, but before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, we'll see you in the neighborhood. The Utah Utes, thankfully, we do not have a bye week this week. I don't want a bye week. I want to get that bad Texas Tech beatdown taste out of my mouth. And instead, Utah will get to head over and they will be taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. The first time Utah's played them in the Big 12 tenure, and I can't wait for this game. And I feel like Utah deserves to be favored. Vegas likes Utah a lot. Utah opens as a 12-point road favorite at West Virginia, who lost 41-10 at Kansas. That's right, West Virginia. Utah not the only Big 12 team that got blown out this weekend. West Virginia got the business basically handed to them by Kansas. And this is a team, yes, they beat Pitt 31-24 in overtime. Rivalry games can get weird, but this is a West Virginia team. They brought in like 80 new players. It was 17-10. They lost to Ohio on the road, but still a MAC team. And they beat Robert Morris 45-3, but I'm just not been impressed by this team. Kansas was a massive favorite on the road at home against West Virginia, and obviously they took care of business. I think Utah deserves to be the favorite in this game. When you look at what West Virginia has done so far on the year, we just did. It's not very impressive. They don't have a outstanding quarterback situation. When you look at what Mark Yule's done so far on the year, 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. The offensive line, simply put, has not been good for them. He's been sacked 8 times on the season overall too. Running game wise, they're all right. They have 2 backs averaging 5 yards per carry, but Jaheim White's injury is a massive blow to this team. And I just think Utah, with their blitzing and chaos, they can really make some plays. I think defensive line wise for Utah as well, I do think this is a game where the Utah offensive line bounces back. Talked about it earlier. Still maybe not one of the best units in the country, but still one of the 10 to 15 best. I absolutely feel so. So I do feel like this Utah team, with how much continuity they have, reminder, 80 new players for West Virginia. That's a lot. With how much continuity Utah has, I absolutely feel like this is a team that is capable of going up to Morgantown and winning by double figures like Vegas believes they do. Vegas knows something, and I think they're on to something with this one. I like Utah in this game. We'll predict it and talk about it more throughout the week, but Utah has the better talent in the trenches. You're getting a mad Utah team too. Let's remember, this Utah team usually responds really well after the loss to Devon Dampier. Hopefully his ankle can heal up a little bit and get even better, even after taking some hits, and make some plays. I think Jason Beck's going to come back with an even stronger game plan. And just West Virginia and Texas Tech could not be more polar opposite as teams right now. Texas Tech has blown out everyone. West Virginia lost on the road to a MAC team. West Virginia went on the road and got blown out to a Kansas team that I like. But let's not forget, Kansas also lost by double figures when they went out to Missouri. And I like that Missouri team, but I think Kansas as well is not one of the 3 best teams in this conference. I don't even know if they're one of the 4 best teams right now. I think Utah will win that game when they see Kansas later in the year, even though it's going to be I think it'll be a tough game. I just think it'll be a close one that Utah comes out on top. But first, you got to handle business against the Mountaineers, and Utah is still in a better position as a program than West Virginia currently is. Utah, the continuity, as we mentioned, the talent in the trenches on both sides of the ball, the Morgan Scalley, the blitzes that he brings, not facing a great quarterback, and a West Virginia defense that just got demolished in some ways, right? Just lost 41-10. They got blown out too. It doesn't get much easier with Devon Dampier and a Utah offense that is much improved to me coming to town. So I do feel like Utah takes care of business in this one, but I'm excited to see how this next week in the Big 12 heats up, right? Like we're starting to get now where everyone is going to be playing in conference matchups. Like TCU goes to Arizona State this Friday. How awesome is that? We get to really find out how good TCU is. And if Arizona State, they just had a tough road performance against a Mississippi State team. Then you get Houston goes to Oregon State. I think Houston wins that one because Oregon State is not a good team right now. But let's see how good Cincinnati is, right? Can they play a close game against Kansas? How about Baylor, Oklahoma State? Well, actually, I'm sorry, I haven't brought that one up. That's a Baylor win. Then you get Arizona going to Iowa State. Can Fafita make that one interesting? And finally, let's see if this BYU offense and quarterback especially are legit when they go out to Boulder. I said a few weeks back that I thought Colorado would win that game. I might cool off on that. The quarterback situation at Colorado is messy, but it is hard to win on the road in college football. So who knows? I might come back around to that one before the clock hits 0 on the kickoff countdown. I might pick the Colorado Buffaloes to go and beat the BYU Cougars. But what matters is that Utah has to take care of business against West Virginia. I mean, if you lose this game this week, Big 12 title is probably out of the picture. College football playoff is definitely out of the picture. That's something we didn't bring up earlier. If Utah wants to be a college football playoff team, they really can't lose another game. There is a world with other chaos that happens. If Utah bounces back and really looks good, that a one-loss Utah team or a two-loss Utah team, but only if that second loss happens in the conference championship game, gets into the college football playoff. I don't see how a two-loss Utah team, that one of those losses is a blowout loss to Texas Tech, who looks like a playoff team. So comparable competition, you got blown out. I don't see how that Utah team gets into the college football playoff unless they get to the Big 12 title game. And even if they lose again, your only two losses are to a really good Texas Tech team, and there's chaos other places. Utah will need a little bit of help to get in, but they can start by helping themselves out by laying the smackdown on the Mountaineers. And we're going to keep covering it all week long on Locked On Utes to see if this Utah football program is up to the task. Thank you guys for making Locked On Utes your first listen as always. And let's not forget, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football preview weekly, where Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holloway, and Locked On's local experts at College Football Preview. Only Locked On can catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. I was actually on last week. Everything I said did not come true, but I had a really good time going on the show. That's going to do it for our show. If you're in the market for a second listen, Locked On Big 12, Locked On Big 10, have you covered. Locked On College Football, lots of great choices at the Locked On Podcast Network. Heck, Locked On West Virginia. Mountaineer Paul, go hit him up and get ready for the game this Saturday. Utah may have lost, but the season and hope is far from over and out of reach. Cannot wait to continue to talk about the Utah Utes this week. We'll be back tomorrow, react to Kyle Whittingham's press conference and more. We'll see you on tomorrow's show.